I'm here. We're live in All Writers Welcome Facebook group. And today we are going to talk about creating your social media persona. Okay, so why would you want to have a social media persona, let's say? Well, have you ever had that moment where you're like, okay, I need to go online and promote my book. And then you're like, but what do I do? How do I interact with people online? How do I interact with the awesomeness of April? So the way to do that is to create a social media persona. So you know how you act differently maybe with your grandparents than you do with your kids, or you act differently at work than you do with your home and family? You know how you'll curse in front of your friends, but you won't in front of your in-laws? So each time, you're not consciously necessarily doing it, but you're kind of creating your persona, okay? You're not being fake. You're just putting certain parts of yourself to the front and being that part of yourself. So it's not like you're like, oh, I'm faking it for somebody. No, you're just being certain parts of yourself and putting other parts of yourself kind of to the side. Thank you, Muhammad. So a social media persona, you can actually do that on social media as an author. You can have your author persona for social media. You could bring certain parts of you to the front and let certain parts of you stay to the back. But most of us don't know how to do that. We don't know which parts. We're like, how do I know which parts that I need to be? So like, I don't know these people. This is all new. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first step to creating your social media persona is to find your audience. So go and find other authors who have a social media presence already, and what are they posting, and what do their readers respond to the most? So go and find a few authors and be like, okay, what's the commonality in these posts? And then step 2 is to write it down. Okay, so are they being like dark or fun or sexy or broody or mysterious or funny or etc.? Like write down, you're like, ooh, this is what they're doing. This is kind of the feel, the vibe to it. You know, people who are writing erotica, they have a very different persona. They have like this, like, you know, okay with doing, you know, and posting sexy things persona, which is great because that's what their audience really enjoys. So find people that are writing books similar to yours is step 1, and then go and write down what kind of, you know, things are they doing in their groups? Like what kind of tone do they have? Now, and once you've written all those down, and don't like judge it at all, just like write them all down. And then step 3 is to identify in yourself the parts of your personality that overlap with what your readers want. So for example, like I have a very difficult time being mysterious. Surprise! Like if my audience wanted mysterious, I wouldn't be able to do that very well because I'm not very mysterious. But my audience tends to like fun and open and knowledgeable. So I'm good with that. Like, I'm like, yeah, that overlaps with what my audience likes. And so that's what I can say. Okay, I'm going to identify those parts of my personality and bring those to the forefront. The fun, funny, open, knowledgeable. Yes, April. April is also a little eccentric. April and I, you know, I'm not going to make any fart jokes, but you know what I mean. So the step 3 is to identify the parts of your personality that overlap with what your readers want. Now, step 4 is to set your boundaries ahead of time. So you're adopting your persona and you say, okay, I don't want to talk about my kids. I don't want, like, there's no negativity. I don't want to, you know what your boundary, you set like your deal breaker boundaries. You're like, these are the things that I just don't do on social media, no matter what. So that way, when the question comes up, like, should I talk about I know I have this opportunity to say something. Should I? No, you've already decided beforehand. These are my rules that I feel comfortable with when you are in a moment of clarity and reasonable decision making. You're like, I'm not going to talk about my kids. I'm not going to post negative things. Maybe you're not going to talk about other people in a negative way. Maybe you decide I'm only going to promote people and not bash people. You get to decide what parts of your persona are, your boundaries. Okay. And then what you can do, so now that you've got all these things, you've found your audience, you've written down like what they like, you've identified the parts of you that overlap with what your audience wants. For me, that's kind of goofy, open, and not knowledgeable. But for you, it might be sexy and mysterious, or what? You've identified those. Then you've set your boundaries. So now you've built like this, it's almost like building a character, right? But it's a character of you. And so the next step in your character is naming your persona. Okay. And this isn't optional, but I think it'd be very powerful to name your persona, because you're like, hey, okay, I'm going onto social media. Come on, Miss Funky Fun. Right? You're like, give yourself your character name, and it could be, it goes with it. So for my pen name, for my author persona, for my pen name is absolutely a little bit more sexy. And so the pen name is a really easy persona, right? Because it's a pen name. So Scarlett Sinclair. My author persona is my pen name, but you can do that just for yourself. Create your own persona. Now, you don't have to tell people your persona's name, right? You don't have to tell people the name, but you can mentally be like, okay, it's time for me to be Scarlett Sinclair. Speaking of Scarlett Sinclair, the next step is to then, after you've named your persona, put your social media. I imagine it as a hat. Okay, so I'm like, okay, time to go on social media. Got to get my persona on. Put my Scarlett Sinclair hat on. Speaking of Scarlett Sinclair hats, did you guys know that I had a red hat collection? Scarlett Sinclair or time to be Scarlett Sinclair, you guys. I'm sexy and I write sexy things on social media for my audience. Or if you're writing westerns. Hattie. Oh, it's reverse camera. Hattie, I'm Scarlett Sinclair. Yo, what's up? Or what, okay, so like, this is my goofy part of it. I really just wanted an excuse to put all my hats on camera. But you can have your persona be like a hat that you're like, okay, I'm going online and now I'm Scarlett Sinclair. And I think that the best hat for Scarlett Sinclair is probably not this one. Maybe in the wintertime. This one's actually two hats, you guys. If you're co-writing, co-writers get to have two hats on. It's one big scarf and two hats. Oh my gosh, so brilliant. Anyways, Scarlett Sinclair, I think of all the hats, this is my Scarlett Sinclair hat. Okay, so when I am adopting my Scarlett Sinclair persona, I'm like, okay, time to be sexy. So those are my tips. I'm going to go over them briefly one more time. Find your audience. What do they like? Then write down what other authors are doing. What kind of vibe and mood and feel do they have? Go ahead and use them, adjectives. Then once you have like this big list of adjectives about what these other authors are doing, go ahead and say, okay, what parts of me overlap with what they're doing. Like maybe you have a hard time being mysterious like I do, but I can be sexy though. And so that's where I can adopt that persona, that part of me, and bring that to the forefront. Then set your boundaries. Okay, set your boundaries so that you're like, I'm not going to be negative, or I'm not going to talk about my kids, or I'm not going to bash other authors. I'm just going to promote. Set your boundaries so that you don't have to worry about that as you're interacting on social media. Do what feels good and safe and comfortable for you. And then go ahead, and number 5 is name your persona. So if you have a pen name, that's really easy. Scarlett Sinclair is my persona's name. I go online and I'm like, okay, time to be fun and sexy and maybe a little, I don't know. I can't do mysterious. I have a really hard time with mysterious, but I can at least be fun and sexy, right? And then before you go onto social media, put on your social media hat. You're like, this is my social media persona hat. I am Scarlett Sinclair. Yeah, yes, get into character. Lori, that's so perfect. Yes, you get into character. You have created your character for your persona, and now you get to be that on social media. You're like, but not like fake. You're not acting. You're just bringing that part of yourself to the forefront, just like you would if you're like, okay, I'm going to hang out with the grandparents now. And the way that you are when you're with your grandparents is different than you are when you're with your kids. Or you're like, hey, I'm going to hang out with the in-laws. And the way you are with your in-laws, you bring certain parts of yourself to the forefront, and you put certain parts of yourself, in the back, on the back, and you're like, okay, that's not coming out. I'm not going to be cursing like I am with my friends when I go to the pub. Right? You bring certain parts of yourself forward. And that's what you're doing when you're creating your author and social media persona. April says, I have a boho whimsical persona. I'm working on bringing that part of me to social media. Yes, so much fun. So much fun. So what I would love is for you all to take a nice action step. And so the action step is go ahead and put in the comments what are the parts of your personality that overlap with what your audience wants. So if you go and do these steps, go and do your research and see what other authors like you are doing, right? And then come back, identify those parts, let us know, okay, my persona is this, and then go ahead and name your persona and put that name in the comments. Okay, action step. And let us know who is your author persona. What is your character's name? What is your author persona character's name? And what are the primary characteristics that your author persona has? Okay? Thank you so much. If you guys have any questions, I'm here, and I like to have fun, and I like to help you. So go ahead and put any questions in the comments, and I will get to them later when I see them, if because they're not here right now. And this is Ella from All Writers Welcome Facebook group. Hi, April. You're welcome. Thank you, April. Thank you, April. You guys are so sweet. And I hope this was helpful. Always, there's on the video tab on the side of the Facebook group, there's a bunch of videos. So if you see videos with me making a goofy face, like in the middle of a sentence with my dark hair, I talk about marketing. And if you see any pictures of Megan, she's, if you see videos of Megan, she's blonde hair, beautiful, and she has videos about writing. So go ahead and check out the videos in the tab, because they're really, really, really a ton of good information. Like, I've got videos about making your book covers, about how to publish on Amazon, how to, I don't know, there's a lot of videos out there. And then Megan, she has stuff about doing your central conflict, writing your characters, how to do dialogue. All those videos already exist. And so even though we're not live, you can still get tons of help when you're like, oh, I'm really having a question about X. Oh man, I'm really having a question about how to make my book cover. There's a video there, and they're all about the same length, 13 minutes or so, but really helpful. So check them out. There's a lot of resources. Of course, you can just ask people in the group, and we're all happy to help. So thank you so much, and I will see you later. Bye.